It was a Maine summer day, and I spent it wandering the humid aisles of the Brunswick Indoor Flea Market. With my camera in hand, I searched for interesting objects and subjects to capture, hoping to strike Instagram gold. Seeing nothing that was worth paying attention to, I decided to move along. And just as I was about to pick up my pace, I heard a voice ask, "What are you taking pictures of?" I turned toward the voice to see two white men in their 70s perched in a cluttered booth filled with old fishing equipment and boxes of papers. Let's call them Jim and Ray. "Just stuff I see," I said. They welcomed me into their space, and there we were. We talked about Maine and how traditional industries are changing. And that's when Jim said, "It's the computers! They're taking our jobs. Trump's gonna bring them back, though." "No, he's not," I yelled in my head. As much as I wanted to correct Jim, over a year ago, I decided I would engage in a new practice. And no, it wasn't the latest yoga trend. It's radical listening. Radical listening is the practice of intentionally quieting your internal voice and judgments, thereby offering your full mental space to the speaker. This practice allows me to ask more informed questions, receive well-thought-out answers, and enable worthwhile conversations, sometimes. And think about it. Whether it was last year's election or the last conversation with your partner about their socks becoming an art installation on your apartment floor, we are terrible at listening to people we disagree with. It's a defense mechanism, an element of our brain that's been evolving over millions of years to protect us when we feel most vulnerable and are at risk of being wrong. However, I believe that being listened to and understood are ways in which we affirm each other's existence. And when people feel that they are left out or ignored, we experience doubt and extremism in our society, our communities, our politics, and our relationships. Now, I think we've forgotten that every conversation doesn't have to end with someone joining your side. We don't all need to be on the same team here. And even more, I'm not sure we taught, or maybe we forgot along the way, how to disagree respectfully. Now, radical listening is not easy or simple at all. It's a constant practice and reminder to self to suspend what I presume to know about someone and their experience in our shared society. Back in the booth at the flea market, I practiced, I reminded, I listened, and I also struggled a lot. When Ray said that Hillary Clinton was the Antichrist, I really struggled with that. And in that moment, I reminded, and I practiced, and I listened. And it wasn't the easiest conversation that I've ever had, but we were there, sticking to it. Then, as in today, radical listening is necessary work that doesn't necessarily get easier. Ask anyone who knows me. I have a very hard time not correcting people when they're wrong. I mean, really hard. However, what I know won't always change someone's mind, beliefs, and opinions. And if I approach every conversation with the intent to proselytize, I'm gonna burn out. So, if I can shift my approach, rethink my expectations, and preserve some of my energy, perhaps I can engage in conversations that end with more empathy, compassion, and understanding. Perhaps even I can model this practice for someone who's hesitant. And that's because radical listening is a necessary step to effecting change. In order to change our society, I need to know how someone on the other side thinks. To have a successful relationship, I need to try to understand my partner. To have a successful society, I need to try to understand those two men at the flea market. And they need to try to understand me too. It goes both ways. Back in the booth at the flea market, our conversation was winding down. I had my camera in hand and I was ready to move along. They thanked me for listening, told me to read Breitbart, and Ray went on to say that he believed America to be a country of laws. You know when Scooby-Doo goes, "Ruh-roh"? That was me. But I practiced and reminded and listened. Ray went on to say that those laws extend even to law enforcement that use excessive and deadly force against Black people instead of protecting and serving them. Wow, I thought. A moment I didn't expect. And that's what happens when we listen radically. We have the opportunity to listen to and learn from people, even those that seem so different from us. And it's in that listening that we begin the process of radical change. And even more, what this practice has taught me, and I hope will teach you, is how to become more comfortable being uncomfortable. Thank you.